Hello, my name is Benjamin Poole. Today I aim to persuade you, my audience, that capital punishment is not beneficial to us as a society. I have been personally studying capital punishment for about a year through various school projects and assignments that I've done in the past. Today I have 4 main points that will prove to you that capital punishment is not beneficial to us as a society. The first point, capital punishment is not worth the cost of its own punishment. The second point, capital punishment does not lower homicide rates like it should. The third point, we're going to see how capital punishment often puts innocents in harm's way. And the last point, we're going to see how law enforcement officers don't ask for or even want capital punishment as a means of punishing crime. Let's start with my first point in the cost of capital punishment. Kimberly Armado wrote an article on The Balance about how Kansas did a study and found that capital punishment cost 4 times as much as the average court prosecution. Maryland did a similar study and found that their average capital punishment case cost them $3 million. Now, these are just for prosecution fees. That's an excessive amount. Even a court case like life sentence or multiple life sentences could cost a quarter of this price. That money could be used in a far better, far more beneficial manner. Second, we're going to see how capital punishment is not a good deterrent to homicide. The DPIC did a recent study, and they found that the southern states of the United States of America, have a much higher rate of homicide than anywhere else in the world, consistently, annually. Now, the southern states also account for more than 80% of the execution. Those numbers don't exactly add up. You would think that someone with such a high execution rate would also have a really low homicide rate, but clearly that's not the case. The DPIC also talked to the presidents, former and past, of the Academic Criminology Society. They found that 88% of these presidents, past and present, reject capital punishment as a means of deterring homicide. Next, we're going to see how many innocent people have been put in harm's way through capital punishment. Now, our court system is very thorough. It makes sure that it's very, very careful to be fair. It makes sure that everyone is equally thought of. We are innocent until proven guilty. But despite that, everyone makes mistakes. Cameron Willingham was one of these accidental false executions. He was convicted of arson and the murder of his 3 children. He was executed. A few years after his execution, there was studies put onto the evidence that convicted him. They found that the evidence that had this man executed was misinterpreted, and the man was actually innocent of the arson and the murder of his 3 children. This is written by an article from Eric at Able Stories. Unfortunately, this is an all too familiar story, with many just like Cameron Willingham. Now, of course, accidents happen, and if they were just in a life sentence, Cameron could have been released, but in this case, the accident cost him the life of an innocent. Next, we're going to see how we should trust the opinion of our law enforcement officers. Gerald Galloway joined 70 of his colleagues and formed the Public Society of Officials on the Death Penalty. Now, this is a society formed by law enforcement officers for the sole purpose of showing to the general public how the death penalty sentence is not beneficial. Gerald Galloway wrote the article himself on the ABA. I have a quote from Frank Friel, a law enforcement chief. He says, "The death penalty does little to prevent crime. It is the fear of apprehension, and the likely prospect of a swift and certain punishment that provides the largest deterrent to crime." Even the chief of police, Frank Friel, rejects capital punishment as a means of deterring crime. In conclusion, we've seen how capital punishment is not a formidable or beneficial means of punishing crime. Obviously, crime should go punished. There is no reason that we should let criminals get away with their unjust and unright acts. But capital punishment is not the way to do this, as we have seen. I have given you 4 reasons why capital punishment is not beneficial. The first, we've seen how capital punishment outcosts its own benefits. It's a self-defeating purpose. The second, we've seen how capital punishment does not even lower homicide rates as a means of prevention. The third, we saw how many innocents have been put in the way of harm through capital punishment. And the fourth, we saw how law enforcement officers, who are the leading authorities on this matter, don't even ask for capital punishment as a means of deterring crime. I hope today that I have persuaded you, my audience, and that now you see how capital punishment is not beneficial to us as a society. Thank you.